Hey, it's the Phenomenal STEMist. How are you? Um, as usual, I will work on sharing my page so that more people can join. Thank you to whoever's joined. It's October, and October, the focus is always cancer. Specifically, they focus on breast cancer. However, breast cancer is not the deadliest form of cancer. Um, there's a great marketing platform to promote awareness for breast cancer in the month of October. So I decided, let me just focus on that and give you guys some history behind and understanding about cancer. Last time I checked, lung cancer is the deadliest form of cancer. And it kills so much more people than breast cancer does. What is cancer? Thanks you guys for joining. I can't see who's joining for some reason. I see your view, but I can't see who you are. So if I don't greet you, that's just the reason. I just can't see you. So if you can click join, follow, feel free to share. And when you share, I'll be able to I'll be able to see more people, and people will be able to see this more. So feel free, if you want to inform people about what cancer is, just click the share button. So cancer is uncontrollable deadly cell growth, all right? You can have uncontrollable growth and it not be cancer. It cannot be at least malignant cancer, something that can lead to death. The three most common forms of cancer are carcinomas, sarcomas, and blastomas. So I'm going to tell you the difference between them, and then I'm going to focus on stage 1 cancer. So today, I forgot to tell you who I am. Those of you already know my name is Dr. Maya Byfield, and I received my bachelor's in biology from Oakwood College, now university. I went on to Albert Einstein College of Medicine, and that's where I received my degree in master's in biomedical sciences and my PhD in molecular pharmacology. And that's just a really funky way of saying I like cells. I study the way cells talk to one another. I study the way cells communicate. I studied the way cells grew. And so I have a great background in cell biology and how it may lead to dysfunction, which one of the main dysfunctions of cell biology is cancer, uncontrollable cell growth. So back to what I was saying before, carcinomas are cells that grow uncontrollably from epithelial tissue. So tissues that line either the outside or the inside of the body, tissues that are filled with cells that are constantly, scientists call it mitotic. They are constantly ready to divide. Why? Because they're constantly injured, they're constantly sloughed off, and they have to be replaced. Things like your skin, right? Your skin, the top level of your skin, the epidermis, is epithelial tissue. And every time you take a shower, you're rubbing cells off of yourself. And the cells itself are pretty much dead anyway, and so they have to be constantly replaced. So your skin cells are dividing a lot. Your esophagus cells, the linings of your digestive system, are constantly dividing, and when those cells since they already have a risk of dividing too much, they lead to lots of cancers. They're the most commonly known type of cancer. The cancers of the epithelium, your breast, the glands of your breast are epithelial, and when they grow uncontrollably, you know, get cancer, breast cancer, stomach cancer, right? Sarcomas are they're rare, but when you have them, they're deadly. They're almost always malignant. So you can have a mole on your skin where it grows uncontrollably, but it's just a mole. So it's benign, it's not malignant, but sarcomas are, if you get cancer of your bone, of your cartilage, these are connective tissue areas where there's not that much cells. So when the cell actually starts to go uncontrollable, they're not stopped quickly, and they turn malignant and they go other places. And lastly, blastomas. Blastomas are tumors of your stem cells, the cells that are developing. So I want you to notice the terms I've been saying: growing, developing. If they're already growing, if they're already developing, they are at risk of growing and developing uncontrollably. So in your nervous system, you have glioblastomas. These are in your brain cells. You have specialized cells that are developing that start to grow uncontrollably. So that's what cancer is. Cancer is one of these cells, most of the time in your epithelial tissue: stomach, prostate, pancreas, lung, liver, colon, breast, all your skin. That's epithelium. And those are the high-risk cancers, because what are they doing? They're constantly growing and replacing themselves, and then they have a risk of growing uncontrollably. The others are more rare, but if they start to grow or develop uncontrollably, same thing will happen. Okay. So what do I mean by grow uncontrollably? So I don't know if you've taken biology in high school or in college. You should have some form of biology. You've learned of the concept of mitotic cell division. This is the process of your cells living and then dividing into two. So your cell has a life cycle. Every cell in your body, all those cells, like your stomach cells, your skin cells, your breast cells, they have a life cycle, and their life cycle is based on their purpose. For instance, the glands of your breasts are there to secrete milk, or the glands or the cells of your skin are there to create a boundary so things can't easily invade, right? The cells of your lung are there to form sacs so that they can take in lots of good air. I repeat, good air. And so it takes in a lot of good air, and then you let the air out, right? Everything in your body is made up of cells. And some are living on a cycle where they divide for three reasons. Cells go through a process of division under three purposes. Number one, growth, development, and repair. Growth, development, or repair. That is when your cell decides to go from one cell to go through a process that it becomes two cells, right? For instance, you have cells in your skin, they're called keratinocytes. When they grow, they form this nice thick layer on to form your skin. The top layer starts to die, so it gets cut off. So what do you need to do? You need to repair it. So you make more cells. The cells begin to make identical copies of themselves, and you have more skin, right? When you are a child and your 13-year-old male, for instance, all of a sudden he goes to bed in May and he's 5'2", and he wakes up in August, he's 5'7". Like, what happened? There was a massive growth spurt. Why? Because his cells divided a lot based on hormones. So hormones triggered high levels of growth. So sometimes hormones will talk to cells and tell cells, hey, grow a lot, double yourself, right? Or if you're in your mother's womb and you were once an egg and a sperm got together, made one cell, and then all of a sudden that one cell made two cells, and then that two cells made four cells, and those four cells made 8 cells, 16, and so on. They exponentially went through a process of growth and development into specialized cells to form a baby. So mitotic cell division is necessary for life for 3 reasons: growth, development, and repair. But what happens when you don't need to grow, develop, and repair? Then you shouldn't. You have to be regulated. This cycle here is tightly regulated, where it says when hormones come in, they say, please start growing, and they grow. But then they take away hormones, or they start to form, I call them, they come together and they form a sheet. They don't grow on top of each other. They stop where they are. As soon as they form a nice flat tissue, they should stop where they are. Tightly regulated cell division for only growth when you need to grow, only development when you need to develop, and only repair when you need to repair. The problem is sometimes cells start to grow when they through mitotic cell division when they shouldn't. They transform, they change. And when they change, they don't look like the other cell. They look like different cells that are starting to grow a lot, and they form an overgrowth. That's cancer. Now you can have benign cancer, things like fibroids. Many females have fibroids. That's a tumor. But it's a benign tumor. Basically, it stays in its place. You see people have moles on their faces. Those are overgrowths on their face. They're skin overgrowths. They shouldn't be there. But it's benign, meaning it's staying in its place. A malignant cancer is where the cells not only start to transform and change and grow uncontrollably, but then they burst out of where they used to be and they start going other places. That's the danger. That's the danger of cancer. The danger of cancer is not necessarily that there is an overgrowth of breast cells still in the breast. The problem is that those same breast cells that were growing uncontrollably, instead of staying put in the breast, which probably wouldn't cause any harm, they cross a boundary. Shout out to boundaries. That's a spiritual lesson right there. They cross a boundary, and when they cross the boundary, they start growing in places that they don't belong. You see, breast cells belong only in the breast. Breast cells don't belong in the brain. But how many people die of breast cancer because the cells of the breast have gotten to the brain? Or how many people die of lung cancer, die of breast cancer, because their lungs shut down? Why? Because their breast cells went to their lung and clogged up the lung, not allowing the lung to take in any air. You see, breast cells belong only in the breast, and when they go other places, they interrupt the function of that place. Cancer is the enemy of crossing boundaries. Yeah. So I told you guys that I would focus on stage 1. And I haven't seen anybody um, ask any questions as yet. I don't see anybody online with me. You may be there. If you are, you need to let me know and feel free to ask questions. Um, yeah. So stage one breast cancer, or let me rephrase that: stage one cancer, not stage. Remember, I'm focusing mostly on cancer in general. I'm not um, keyed on to specific types of cancer. So stage one cancer is the uncontrollable growth. The uncontrollable growth with the potential to invade. So what they do is they do a biopsy. They do a biopsy and they see if there are specialized proteins in that cell. So just imagine um, they take a piece of this lump. It's a lump. Why? Because the cell has overgrown. It was supposed to grow only to this level, right? So how come you're having things clump on top of each other? These cells did not obey the rules. The rules were as soon as you touch each other, you form a one layer. You do not you don't keep growing. Some rule was disregarded. And what happens with stage one is the rules have been disregarded, and that this cell has information inside that has the potential to be deadly. It's not deadly yet. It hasn't left the area yet. Yeah, it hasn't left the area yet. Sorry, but it has the potential to leave, and that's why they call it stage one cancer. Because something inside those cells, based on history, they have specialized code language that says that cell is going to leave. Yeah. And so what should they do? They should get rid of that lump. And how do they get rid of that lump? Well, they do surgery sometimes, and they do radiation. What does radiation do? Radiation kills cells, kills your cells too, your growing cells, but the intensely growing cells, it'll destroy. They haven't left yet. That's what stage one cancer is. All right. So I'll end with this. There are carcinogens that cause cells to divide uncontrollably. There are triggers that tell cells to divide uncontrollably. When the air we breathe, if it has special carcinogens, right? A carcinogen is a chemical that tells cells to divide uncontrollably. How? It damages regulators. It damages cells. If you remember, I was telling you about the fact that cells, when they divide, there is a regulator, right? So this cell will become this cell, this cell will become this cell, and this cell will start splitting into two to become these two cells. So they transition from one form to another, but at every step there are these regulators to say, yep, you're ready to go, no problem, no damage, right? If you look inside, cells have DNA. And that DNA is the code language. But if I eat a chemical or breathe a chemical or smoke a chemical or drink a chemical, and that chemical damages the code language of this cell itself, then it will divide. It may start to divide uncontrollably. Or if a chemical breaks the code language of a regulator cell, a cell that would say, hey, you need to stop dividing right now. You damage those cells, then these cells won't listen to anybody and they'll just keep dividing. The problem with stage 1 breast cancer is the beginning of cancer, right? It is when the cells do not listen to the regulators and they keep dividing uncontrollably. It's because some kind of damage happened via some, either genetically, but I believe in most cases it's because there was some kind of carcinogen. Think about your skin cells. When you stay in the light too much, if you go to these tanning salons too much, and the light rays break the DNA, that same code language, destroy the DNA, and the cells are not tightly regulated, they'll start to grow. You did something. You basically sat in the sun too long, and the sun did damage. Or you drank water that was filled with chemicals that did damage. Or you breathed in foul air, whether you were smoking it or you lived in an environment that they were toxically polluting the environment with these chemicals, and they did the damage to the code language. At any rate, the cell is no longer either listening to itself or listening to a regulator. It is dividing uncontrollably. It hasn't left anywhere yet. So, you could just basically slough it off, kill it right then and there. But it's still cancer. Of the 4 stages of cancer, stage 1 cancer is the most curable because it has not gone anywhere. Hey, Uncle Courtney, how you doing? All right. Are there any questions? You're gonna have to watch the replay. Are there any questions for me? Levels of cancer. Next week, we're gonna do stage 2. Following week, we'll do stage 3. And lastly, the deadliest form of cancer, the last stage, which is stage 4. Feel free to ask questions on the video, even if I'm not here when the Facebook Live ends. Then I'll answer it next week. Remember to like my page, Phenomenal STEMist, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Dr. Maya Byfield. Hey, Auntie Yvonne. Okay, so it's not Uncle Courtney, it's Auntie Yvonne, husband and wife. How are you doing? Also, you can check out my podcast. I'm on Google Podcasts and Apple iTunes and SoundCloud. So Phenomenal STEMist. Everything is Phenomenal STEMist. I hope you guys have a great weekend. And I'm a Phenomenal STEMist, if there's no more questions. Good, I'm glad you're doing great. Have a good night, guys.